Administration, as well as I believe the Senate, considered the likelihood or possibility of what's called the extended or expanded FMAP as a possible portion of the budget solution. Minnesota joined 2/3 of the other states, according to the National Conference of State Legislature, in incorporating that into their budget planning for the current budget and the one to come up. As we are gathered here today, that outlook for that money being received is unclear at best. We know it is highly unlikely to arrive before the end of the session. If it arrives at all, it may not arrive until summer, and it may not come at all. So it's time to make sure that we have a reliable, agreed upon alternative budget proposal and solution to meet the budget deficit this session. It would be irresponsible for this legislature, after nearly 5 months of deliberations, to conclude this session without having this budget balanced. And if they attempt to go home in the coming days without that outcome, that would be a very disappointing and unfulfilling outcome for the state of Minnesota in a time of great need and a time of great challenge. There's 536 remaining after the February forecast, after Phase 1, after GAMC. So to get to 536, you have to do these things on page 2 of your letter. You have to enact the rest of our budget cuts, take $30 million more from LGA, 65 from the Douglas J. Johnson Fund, and 36 more out of Health and Human Services.
Governor, how do you justify taking the Doug J. Johnson Fund, which is set aside specifically for economic development on the Iron Range, and which is paid in lieu of property taxes?
We're cutting everything, with the exception of military, public safety, and K-12 schools. We're not going to have the legislature go home without a balanced budget agreement with our legislature. It's going to get resolved one way or the other, and we have options in that regard.
The governor points his finger at the legislature. He should also take some counsel and take some time to talk to his Republican colleagues who don't support a lot of what the governor is proposing here. And once again, parochially, he is taking money from northeastern Minnesota that was paid by northeastern Minnesota to balance the entire state budget. Once again, really balancing the budget on the back of rural Minnesota, and in this instance, one particular part of rural Minnesota.
And I understand his frustration. I understand that he's irritated. You know, this takes time out of his day, but it's important to face the reality. And the reality is he put together a budget that did not balance, and now it's time to try to balance the budget. And I think if he would be productive by giving us, and this is a simple request, not trying to be confrontational, if he could describe what the $405 million is, that would be a good, in his letter, that would be a first good step. And I would just say that it is not productive to reiterate things in the $405 million that there are not votes for in the legislature. Keep in mind, we put up his budget in the Senate, and it received 9 votes. Senator Senjum keeps telling me it was 10, maybe it was 10, I think it was 9. So that's not even half of the caucus, minority caucus. So his 405 has to include things that have not been rejected already, I think. And it's a simple request. I just wish he would do that. We don't need to have a confrontational debate here. What we need is just a little cool-headedness and calmness and get the job done.